Welcome to FedScoop TV and our special series on digital transformation heroes. I'm Wyatt Cash, and we're here today with Brett Stafford. Brett is the Senior Director for Strategic Solutions at Dell EMC Federal. Brett, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Wyatt. Thanks for having me. So
you bring an interesting perspective, a larger view of the federal government, as well as some of the commercial market opportunities in technology. Tell me a little, we know that federal IT managers recognize the need to modernize their IT legacy systems if they want to get to digital transformation. Can you point to some examples that you're seeing of where agencies or the government in general have made concrete steps towards modernizing their IT and how that's leading them towards digital transformation?
Yes, absolutely. And we actually have a really good example of a commercial customer that has a lot of the same problems that our federal customers experience that I think would be a good reference for the question you've asked. So many of our federal customers are experiencing what we call the complexity conundrum. In the case of this specific commercial customer, at every layer of the data center stack, and there's 7 layers traditionally in a data center, they were competing the technologies and had a minimum of 2 vendors at every layer. And each of those vendors were providing multiple operating systems, N-1, N-2, and in some cases N-3, to meet the current requirements of their legacy IT environment. Well, that created what we call the complexity conundrum, because all of those points of integration resulted in the IT team at that customer having to manage 6.5 billion points of integration. And so over 90% of their IT budget was spent just managing the infrastructure, keeping the lights on. And in my mind, that's very similar to this lowest price, technically acceptable acquisition process that we see across the federal government. Many of our federal customers have the same problems. But one recently has embarked on a strategy to try to overcome that. They're on a path to modernize, automate, and transform their infrastructure. So in the modernization step, they've done ruthless standardization, and they've virtualized everything they can. In the automation step, they've really sought to take all of those manual tasks and create blueprints and push those blueprints across their enterprise, leveraging the technologies in a software-defined data center. And by doing that, that pushes the availability and the performance of the data center up and allows them to manage the data center in a much more dynamic and agile way. And when they've taken those steps, they're now able to transform and start to work on much more strategic tasks. The Department of Defense, for instance, recently led a contract and sought to acquire on-prem cloud technology. And that cloud technology will be capable of interacting with other DoD data centers or potentially some of the FedRAMP certified cloud providers that are out there. So there are customers across the federal space that are achieving positive effects by modernizing, automating, and transforming their infrastructure so they can avoid the complexity conundrum.
And that is a conundrum. Let me ask next, you kind of alluded to cloud services and things like containerization, agile development. How do you see what's possible for agencies over the next 18 months relative to modernizing government IT systems?
Well, there's several really good examples. The one that I would point you to is cloud.gov and the U.S. Digital Services team over at GSA. They have embarked on a process of using a software tool to standardize modern application development so that it can run in any cloud operating system. But they actually took an additional step because they're leveraging the tool sets and capabilities of both virtualization and containerization so they can actually build in all the certification requirements. So customers across federal that would previously build a new application and take 18 to 24 months to get it certified, at cloud.gov today, they can build net new applications that'll run in any cloud operating system, and it comes out of that microservices development process ready to be certified because all the requirements of FedRAMP are built in to the tool set they're using. So it's a PaaS tool to develop new capabilities for agile development for government.
That's a great example. Well, next I'd like to talk about the workforce because we know IT modernization is not just about technology, but about having the right people with the right skills. What needs to happen in your estimation with agencies to have the right skills and talent within their IT operations and maybe more broadly at their agencies?
Yeah, this is a really important area to discuss as well. And I would say across the federal landscape and our enterprise and commercial customers, we run into the same challenge. The technology is typically not the problem, right? The technology is available to do amazing things today. It's the people and process piece, all the training, as you've mentioned, to be ready to use those new skills and capabilities in a more meaningful and effective way for either the agency or the lines of business. And so we spend a considerable amount of time working with our customers to leverage all those things they already know and then to try to reapply them in a more agile and cloud-like way. So we've literally built new training courses that several of our federal customers have taken advantage of to, for instance, become a cloud architect or to software define the networks and really leverage the ability to micro-segment the networks to achieve higher levels of security.
And lastly, what considerations should agencies keep in mind relative to the kind of explosion of data, and in particular, putting more data analytic tools and insights into the hands of employees?
So this is another interesting question. There's actually a really good Economist article that just came out that speaks to the idea that data might be the new oil or a new form of currency. And it's a very interesting read, and I think it has direct applicability to our federal customers, because when you consider all the data that's available across all the agencies, or even within an agency among the sub-agencies and components, that data is a national security asset on the one hand.
That's right.
But also, in certain cases, when it's appropriate to share, it can be a great asset to the global economy or to the US economy. The interesting point about the Economist article is data is unlike traditional currency because it can be reused. So you can take the data and aggregate it into a data set and use it in one way and then curate it, learn from it, and add the value back to it and reuse it again with no additional cost largely. Whereas if you think in terms of oil, you can't typically reuse oil after it's been used, right? And so I believe that there's huge opportunity for our government customers to unlock the data that's currently in silos of infrastructure across their space, and to create a new level of service to the citizens of this nation on unleashing the power of that data as a citizen service.
Well, Brett, thank you so much for stopping by, sharing some of the insights, sharing some of the examples that you're seeing in the commercial world and how they can apply to the government market and ultimately help advance the digital transformation trend that we're seeing taking place.
Thank you very much, Wyatt.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Wyatt Cash with FedScoop TV. Look for more of our coverage at fedscoop.com. Thanks for watching.